Greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian own, nothing control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the Vault, episode 457, January 14th, Family Asset Protection Trust Conference recap. So, definitely want to do this conference recap. Wanted to, talk about the feedback that we got from the conference, how we're going to get better. We had a conference this past weekend with a really good turnout. And, it's always about having the right people meet the right people. Uh, Once again, when we get families in a room that have brought their children, I think we had the youngest in the room was 12 years old. So, once again, when families say, oh, can I bring my child? Why would you be bringing someone that or 13 years old? So even if they're 16 years old, they're still less than high school for sure. Um, we definitely had some youngins in the room. We had a 20-year-old in the room, and then we had everything above that for ages after that, 40s, 50s, 30s, whatever. Um, so you always say, well, conference turnout, demographic, um, families definitely in the room. You did see some first gens. You did see uh, quite a few first gens actually sit in the room. But we actually had a third gen speaker. So if you're first gen, it's good to get around third gens. It's good to get around people that are five gens deep with money, where they're actually saying we're passing on wealth. We actually had the speaker confirm they have family meetings, investment meetings once a month. And if they can't obviously be there, they're gonna teleconference in, but they're having these family meetings. So we definitely want to do this episode, do a recap of the event. It's like, oh, we're gonna spill the beans after, but we are going to talk about the feedback that we've gotten, which it's never always got to say, oh, it's got to be stellar, but it is something that we want to just talk about in the recap. Some of the feedback that we got. So we'll definitely pull that up. The feedback that we've gotten from the actual event itself. Of course, the reviews are always going to be mixed. Everybody, we don't need everybody to be yes men and say, oh, how how great it was. We don't need to toot our horn, but we do provide very niche training for our families. So we actually opened up the floor for the families to connect with, since they're first gen, to connect with the third gen, and specifically ask them questions, about management practices in family and generations, and just dealing with business deals and things like that. How do you handle business deals coming even from a female perspective? Because we did have her, the third generation speaker was a young lady, so she was able to talk about bringing ideas to her family that were seniors, that were men, and talking about those things. So you got to hear different and a very unique perspective, which is always interesting, nonetheless. Uh, you know, so we went over in this particular workshop or conference, the trust minutes, and this is one of those things that when we went over this with the trustees, of course, we, sitting at the front of the room, you could see trustees' eyes light up. This is something that we have resounding right now where trustees are saying from that particular training, hey, you providing the minutes, detailed, showings really helped them out to see, okay, we need to get access to that information. So we're making it available to our trustees. It's about 250 minutes that they have access to, plus or 200 plus minutes of various different types of minutes that entities have, and trusteeship and things like that. So that was something that we are definitely going to open up to people that want access to those things. Just like our trustees in our training program, they've enrolled. Someone will be enrolling in a private training system, just have access to that information, just having access to the private library where they do have access to template minutes or at least examples of minutes and things of that nature. So it's good to see that the trustees really got a chance to see that. I knew that I was going to be a home run hitter with the trustees because they everybody always says, well, how do you transfer property and things of that nature, exchange property, whatever you want to call it. So that, that was always a good point to highlight, as we should say. That was definitely something that we saw eyes light up for. And even right now, on the after effect of it, a lot of people were, really excited to know that they were able to get those because now it shows them they can do things internally and don't always have to depend on anyone. They can come up with those things internally, and it's good to see that the families will be able to have access to it, not just one but many. So that was definitely something that, oh man, we don't have a manual, we don't have a template how we do it. So now you know. um Other feedback, they felt as though third generation, what the speaker was able to give intimate family stories, so um, people didn't feel any type of facade. Uh, they really appreciated the speaker talking about how their family has an open forum to speak. There's no true defined way of communicating, because you do have elders in the family, so they don't all use email. So then, okay, they don't all use email. So how do they get the information? Well, it's still just families being proactive, family members contacting other family members saying, hey, we need you on this line, or hey, we need you to be present. This particular third generation was actually in a position where their family meets physically once a month. And so obviously when you do have families that expand, obviously you're in third gen, so that shows there's quite a few people around, or maybe some people around. That shows that, hey, not everybody may be in the same geographical location, so you will have people obviously have to teleconference in or otherwise, but they do have enough family to where they're able to meet on a specific day, every single month. That means they're only having 12 meetings a year. And yes, they do have retreats. Yes, they do have site visits, but specifically, they talked about having a meeting in person once a month, which it obviously shows due diligence when we talk about that with trustees. How often do you go have the meetings, and do we do them physically? These are the small questions that we wanted to get that trustee in front of our trustees to show, hey, these are some of the best practices. This is obviously third gen. These are some things that you can implement, obviously, in your family, because they've gotten down already to there. So they're going to be fine because they have someone that's able to carry the torch in trusteeship. So when you talk about successorship, they're very clear on who's looking to take a position of successorship. So it was definitely good to hear, some feedback. Just looking for some more feedback here. Um, but it was definitely great. We obviously got the heads up of it being excellent. Um, but nevertheless, you know, it, you get people that come to the workshops and they say, "Oh, I don't know if I'm ready," or "I gotta get ready," or they need to find out how they're gonna get ready and all this other stuff. At the end of the day, you just gotta do it. Let's see. We're looking for some more feedback. Someone actually said that the speaker, because they have their law degree, really encouraged someone to think about that. And it's interesting, um, because when you see somebody say that, that means that they actually had obviously a strong interest in it. And the third gen just confirmed for them the fact that, hey, it's okay if you decide to do that. It's okay. So, uh, we got good feedback from quite a few people at the conference, particularly just talking about, uh, what was that? Where we start now? Uh, Even when we talk about the cash value life insurance, you know, people, they definitely sent over comments that were, oh man, I didn't know that I could use this as a system, even with a credit card, or, I kind of forgot about that, or I didn't know it was a system to pay bills. We were talking to a client earlier today about, uh, when they pay some of these football coaches or they pay successful people, they pay whether it's corporate CEOs, they pay them through the insurance policies of the company. We were even talking to an entrepreneur earlier today, and they definitely have $1 million a year revenue in business, and they don't even have Keyman Insurance. Those are very, very critical things when you talk to somebody that has $1 million a year revenue in business, especially if you're the main person that's actually, like, if you're not there, the company's pretty much going to go south. That $1 million is not going to stay there for much longer than 6 months or more than a year. So, when you see these type of things, these are the strategies and things that we talk to our trustees about, because Keyman Insurance is a tax write-off if people look at that. And that's not us giving advice. That's not financial advice. It's not legal advice. We're saying, hey guys, you guys can look at that. That's an expense to the company, ladies and gentlemen. It's Keyman Insurance. People say, oh, I've never heard of that. Even when we were talking to that entrepreneur earlier today, they said, oh, I didn't know that. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you get into a position where something happens to you as the entrepreneur of the company, the senior entrepreneur, CEO, people always say, "Oh, I'm the CEO." Well, how long is the company going to stay afloat? Does it have senior leadership in place? Have you trained someone to take your position? I don't want to train someone to take my position. A lot of entrepreneurs don't want to do that one, but that's the downside of that. So we got good feedback on even understanding those type of things when you can get those type of not just your strategies, but thought processes. When Keyman Insurance is known by everybody that has quote unquote a business, it's like, oh, I didn't know. It's like, well, you're behind, because that's a basic in any business. With it's like, oh well, if I'm in a sole proprietorship, should I have key man? Well, think about it. The people that are more at risk are the ones that, once again, they're the sole quote unquote person that's running the company. So how is there a fund that's set aside, or some type of policy that says that this is a policy that if something happens, there's a fund that's going to be open to where it'll be able to get a replacement CEO or a replacement CFO or whoever. So, it was one of those things. We talked about those type of things at the conference. I thought it was a great conference, just being able to, appreciate New Jersey for tuning in live, listen to replay. I always appreciate New Jersey for tuning in live, listen to replay. Um, it, it, this is one of those things where someone typed in the chat, they got to get their family together. And it's just interesting. It's like, well, we had some trustees come back on the back and they say, well, man, they kind of showed us that you just got to keep pressing along and be that first gen that gets it all together. And that's what it does come down to, is you have to pull up your pants, pull up your big boy pants, pull up your big girl pants, and it does require first generation hard work. The first gen is the hardest generation, no doubt about it. If you think you're gonna pass along someone in an advantage position, which is economic freedom, and they're not gonna have a harder position, have an easier position? Of course, they're gonna have an easier position. The second and third generation, it's still a position of responsibility. These still a responsibility that they have to manage the money. They can't squander it, so they're just as much in responsible position as the first gen. It's just the first gen is actually doing something active to build that wealth, quote unquote, and to set it aside in a proper fashion. And so it's just interesting to see. We had a conversation earlier today, and this is why people come to our conferences. Is because we allow you to bring your lawyers and your accountants, but we also do consultations with people's lawyers and their accountants. And they come on the line and they say, "Oh, it's not illegal." But then you got to pull a trigger as the entrepreneur. You got to pull the trigger as the investor. These lawyers and these accountants, they work for you. As a senior trustee, and we sit in the room quite a bit with people that inquire to the vault, and we actually sit in the room with their lawyers. Now we can tell to you all today that we're going to go ahead and say that their lawyers must be mad. They're mad, meaning they're crazy, because they verified a vault's position, but they're mad because they can't capitalize now that the vault's here. When you go to these lawyers and you go to these accountants, they don't train you on the contracts. They don't. So they'll sit there and tell you, oh, you can't have any money personally anymore in trusteeship. And then you'll say, well, you're right. I wanted to go to Trust Christian. Oh, nothing control everything. That's what I wanted to do. And your lawyer's sitting in front of your face telling you that you're taking assets out of your name and you're just only going to be able to control them. Even in the private family foundation, we had a third generation sitting in the room. You think they want to own an asset? Oh no, but your lawyer's telling you to own an asset. Your accountant is telling you to own an asset. We got third generation sitting in the room. You think they own assets? Oh, they only know because they're a lawyer, Trust Christian in the vault. Who's going to be the beneficiary? You hear wealthy people say all the time, "Oh, I'm not going to give my kids money. I'm going to give it to the charity." We bring people in and with the charity, and the position is validated. You got the lawyer sitting there saying, "Oh, yeah, well, you should put your money in charity when you don't need it." You think these wealthy people aren't living out of their foundations, ladies and gentlemen? We had to tell it client, we had to tell this person this. You think wealthy families not living out of their foundations? That's the purpose of it. Oh man, really, Trust Christian Vault? I'm supposed to be living out of my foundation? Who you think? What type of lawyer has the nerve to say it? But they don't understand because they're public. Thank you for letting your client know that. Thank you. Thank you for hey entrepreneur investor. Now you know they're public. Well, why would you want to live out of your foundation there? The private family foundation that makes grants to people. And you make investments with endowments. Why would you want to do that? This is where they are. We have no problem with talking about it because obviously you don't get a name, but you get a concept, you get a story of the concepts and stories that we hear continuously about, oh, well, I'm going to go to the conference. I found out that I could possibly do this, but you guys didn't bring it to my attention. Yep, that's that. That means they're not about to make that much money now. Yeah, because what did they say in the meeting as well? Oh, well, who's going to manage it? Right, that's what they're thinking about. See, the lawyers and the accountants, they're not trying to give up that probate fee. You know that probate fee, that minimum 10% that they're going to get if when you pass away and it's in a probate estate. So we actually had a consultation, and the client says, well, what happens if me and my wife get a divorce by happenstance? Now, whether a wife says this by husband, whatever, either or, either her wife says, hey, what if I get a divorce? This is what they ask when they come to the vault. How does it protect me? Well, currently, you're in a revocable trust with your wife. If something happens, she's going to gut you like a fish. Half gone. I can't afford to live in a house anymore. You got to pay for it. Right. We hear it all the time. But we also here at the Vault, we got a 100% success ratio when it comes to those situations because the guys make it out unscathed. Unscathed. Oh man, she didn't see anything. Why? Because nothing's in their name. So when you have your lawyer saying, oh, you got to have it in your name, you got to have it in your name. Well, we're not saying it's gender specific whether she's going to take you to the cleaners or he's going to take you to the cleaners. But, people that are in those situations, they think about those situations. They say, "Oh, well, how is this? How am I protected?" They didn't answer those questions for me. They didn't even make those suggestions for me. Yeah, because they get a fee off you when you go through it. You hear that? So we actually work with our trustees to where they minimize those fees. Because hey, 15% going to a lawyer, 10% going to your lawyer could have went to your family. Who knows how long they're gonna have your estate tied up in probate court? Is your family gonna be there on them to help them administer the estate quickly? Are they signing the assets over to the children? That's what we had the consultation asked to get in earlier today. Well, your children aren't going to be able to benefit. Why is it that wealthy people say they're not going to give their kids money, but then you got these guys, the lawyers that say, "Oh, well, how are you going to give your kids money?" Do you not know that strategy? You don't know that strategy? I need that strategy. The guys say they're not giving their families any money, but it doesn't sound like they're ending their children in a bad off position. I almost want to know why is it that they say that, and the ones that inquire about that, they find out. But then when they take it back to their lawyers and their accountants, they say, "Well, I don't really know how to do that process." Exactly. That's what they say in so many words. I don't know how to do that process. Oh, the process is not good for you right now. And here we go. We're going to tell people this is how the game goes when you get in and you're going in from certain angles. When you go at it from the public route, they got you. When you go at it from the private route, there's less fees involved for you guys. Oh, here we go. This is what it is. When we say less fees, this is what they say to you. People in our space, because they don't want you to know the information, they're going to say to you, you got to have a certain amount of money. That's what they told someone that we were in the consultation with. They told their client that actually. It was like a smack in the face. It's like, we work for you. We can't do it because we don't, like, you need more money. Okay. Well, so the strategy is based off of money, or is it based off, what is it based off? Right. They didn't understand the intent, but they want to apply their thoughts of you have to have a certain amount of money to enter these spaces. This is how people get wealthy and stay wealthy. That's the difference. You either are wealthy and you know it, or you get it and you be it, and you improve and you make that situation happen. It's that simple. The recap for anybody looking out to the audience, we saw quite a few people in the audience that have assets. We saw entrepreneurs that have businesses, um, successful businesses, real estate entrepreneurs, and what we see is that uh, maybe some people can sell assets right now, which is a great market for that. It's also a great time to uh, be building business. There's just a demand for so much right now. And it was just good to see the conference where you've seen a diverse asset set once again. Um, even the speaker was able to talk about alternative assets. Some people did ask about crypto. They got a chance to ask about that, and you got to see someone that has a $1 million perspective, millions of dollars perspective, where they're allocating capital, and they're just like, hey, we're not putting, capital loosey goosey and things of that nature. So, it's just a great conference once again. We'll be looking to do one most likely in April or sometime. So just be on the lookout for that flyer. But other than that, it was a great one, obviously, for the value that was presented for the families that were there. And that's the most important part, just presenting the value for the families. You got to see younger people that were able to, see an example, and get around somebody that, you know, is doing the same thing and just more successful. Ultimately, you want to do what successful people are doing, and so that's what we aim to bring in. And this was just obviously a great example of that, because it was obviously third gen, someone that's active in the field, someone that's active in the type of things that we talk about, whether it's the foundation, whether we talk about it in the trusteeship. They're familiar with it, they're familiar with structure, they're familiar with the meetings, and just it's a great resource to have if you do have assets, you want to sell assets, they are buying assets, and those are the type of things that we wanted to bring to the table in this particular conference. So we were able to actually get that across. We got that across very well. And ultimately, what people want to say is, are we doing deals out of here? And that would be even better. When you hear people doing deals out of the room, where people are able to say, hey, I was able to connect with someone and something went profitable for both parties. That's always going to be the plus, because once again, people in trust deal with people in trust. So that's just why it's a big plus. Is to show that you when you're in these spaces, don't think that the third generation doesn't know what you're talking about when you're talking about certain moves as a trustee. They know. They're in the same entities. They know. People in trust that have been in there for three gen, they know. This is a lawyer. They know. But how are you able to capitalize off of that? You got to invest in getting a private education. So Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, it's Christian at trustchristian.com. Feel free to reach out. If it's the old email, hfrn.vault at gmail.com, you still can go email that one. But, people say, oh, you've been operating for years. Yeah, we've been doing that well. And, we're going to continue to do that. This should be a lights out year. With conferences, and just we'll do one every three or 4 months, to really kind of work with the trustees that are enrolled. We're already into the beginning of the new year, and we've had trustees that are enrolled, and they're looking to protect their family. They're looking to protect. We definitely have trustees talk about intellectual property. So if you do talk about copyrights, trademarks, those type of things, we definitely have trustees talk about those things. Even at the conference, talking about that with the lawyer in the room. It's just like, oh, you don't need to trust Christian now we can trust the lawyer in the room, because trust Christian brought her in the room, and the vault brought her in the room. It's like, yeah. So when you have those type of people that are familiar with what we're talking about, being able to protect IP, and you being able to connect and get those relationships, that's what it's all about. So we're just happy to have served, and it was a great opportunity to have done that. To everyone that's came, we just excited, and it was a pleasure to serve you all on that Saturday. We had it out of college, and that's the good thing is once we start bringing in the managers of the endowments at the colleges. Oh, I should have came to the conference beforehand. Yeah, because we only are doing private family foundation meetings now. Exactly. So we look forward to connecting with you all. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, it's Christian at trustchristian.com. Looking forward to having you go through trustee training, seeing you at the next conference. Peace and joy.